Hello everyone, this is Dr. Flores and it's time for the PMP Live Seminar Series, continuing with the knowledge area time management. The process now is develop schedule. So this is an entire body of knowledge, time management or schedule management. It contains a ton of stuff. This is an exam also from PMI. It's called the Schedule Professional or Scheduling Professional. And it's one that I took several years ago and found it very challenging. In fact, I was sort of surprised that I was able to get through it because there were a ton of questions now regarding, forward pass, backward pass, leads and lags and so on. It was just far more complicated than I thought, but it's passable. You can do it. Now, the good thing from the PMP standpoint or the CAPM is that we're not going to see a ton of those kinds of questions. We're going to see a good share of them, but not a ton. Okay, so the PMP Live Seminar Series is also applicable to the CAPM. So if you are preparing for the CAPM, this is what you would also study and review these topics. I make the questions to where they are relevant to both exams. So remember that you do get one PDU if you are preparing for the PMP. You need 35 to qualify for the CAPM 23. So you get one PDU, one professional development unit for each one of these. If you are a PMP, then you can come back and listen to these and get one for each lesson. So that's a good way for you to get through your recertification. The agenda, we have a short welcome. We talk about the topic for the week. You already know it. It's regarding develop schedule, which is in time management. And then we look at some key terms from this lesson. And then I've written a couple of questions to consider. And as you know from the questions that I write for you, the goal is to make them to where you learn a process, a way that you can tackle questions on the exam and not just one question, a series of questions. There is a Q&A on the live session. This is a recorded session because, number one, it falls on Labor Day, and second, because also sometimes it's better to have a recording. I know that folks can be tied up with work or family responsibilities. So let's get started with develop schedule. The definition is develop schedule is the process of analyzing activity sequences, durations, resource requirements, and analyze constraints to create the project schedule model. A lot of key words here now. Sequences. We talk about sequencing activities. Do you remember what happens when we sequence activities? What do we have? That's right. We have the network diagram. Good point. Good job. I hope you got that one right. Durations. We can estimate activity durations, and it's based on the resources, right? What are the resource requirements? And of course, we have constraints, time, cost, scope, quality, and so on. The key benefit of this process is that by entering schedule activities, remember these schedule activities, or these activities in general, come from the work breakdown structure. We enter durations, resource availabilities, and logical relationships into the scheduling tool. Now, the tool depends on what you're using. It could be a very simple tool that you're drawing or that you're using even like a spreadsheet of some kind, or it could be a very automated tool like through Microsoft Project, Primavera, and so on. And what does it do? It generates a schedule model with planned dates for completing project requirements. So the model is the end result of the sequencing of the activities based on the durations for the resources that you assigned. That's the way you look at it. It seems complicated, but actually pretty straightforward. Okay, let's look at some key terms. There are many key terms in this section, okay? I picked 3, but there are many. This is one of those big ones, okay? Critical path. This is the sequence of activities, okay, that represents the longest path through a project. So you sequence activities, and it gives us the longest path through a project, which determines the shortest possible project durations. Okay, so it is the sequence of activities that give us the longest path. But now it determines the shortest possible way to get there. Now, it doesn't mean it's short, okay? It doesn't mean that, oh, you're going to do it instead of a year, you can do it in 6 months. No. What it means is based on your resources, based on the work you have to do, based on the constraints, this is the fastest way to do it, but it is the longest path. And this means that there are some paths that have wiggle room or float, and you could move through a little faster on those paths, but you cannot do it technically because you must ensure that everything has been applied to the project. So let me give you an example. It's complicated what I'm talking about, I know. So let's just say that you have an activity to order appliances. That's activity C, Charlie. All right, so you can move on. You can move on and start doing other aspects of the work. Okay, maybe you're building a home. So you could start doing other work within the home. However, the activity Charlie, order appliances, maybe activity D, Delta, is install the appliances. Well, we can't get to E echo until C and D are done. C is order appliances, D Delta is install appliances. Once we're done, we can move on to E. Maybe that's paint the living area or whatever. Now, you could technically move on and start the painting, but is that the smartest thing to do? Probably not, because the appliances are not in yet. So that's what this means. It is the longest path, but yet the shortest in duration because of the way the work has to be done. I hope that makes sense. Okay, moving on to critical chain method. This is a definition question on the exam. This is a schedule method that allows the project team to place buffers on any project schedule path to account for limited resources and project uncertainties. The key word here is buffers. Another key word here is related to resources. Not only resources, but limited resources. This is the critical chain method, and you can pretty much count on this question being on the exam as a definition question. Finally here, resource leveling. This is a technique in which start and finish dates are adjusted based on resource constraints with the goal of balancing demand for resources with the available supply. So we might have one resource that has 15, that is working, say 12 hours per day, 12 hours per day. Well, we don't really like that because that resource is overworked. So we have another resource that is only working 4 hours per day and another one that is working 6 hours a day. So we level the work across the resources. So instead of somebody working 12, we divide the work evenly across the three. So I don't know what I said anymore. 12, 8, and 4. So 12 plus 8 is 20, and 4 more, that's 24. So I don't know, I got lucky here. 24 by 3 is 3 people working 8-hour days. Does that make sense? It just, what we're doing is leveling the work. But of course, it does mean that the folks are qualified to do the work. That's the other big piece. Okay, question number 1. Let's look at this one. When reporting to the project sponsor regarding current progress, the project manager was informed that meeting the schedule is paramount. So you're told by the sponsor that the schedule is paramount. The project manager is confident that the work will be done on time, but resource requirements are a potential risk. So we think as a PM that things are going to get done on time, but we know that resource requirements are a problem. Resources include people, capital, equipment, technology. Now, when executing the schedule, the project manager should do the following. Okay, now we're talking about doing the work, right? Executing the schedule. A, ask for additional funds to ensure the work is done on time. B, confirm resources are available to work overtime. C, ensure the planned resources can perform the assigned work. Or D, inform the sponsor that float is a necessary activity given the scenario. Well, okay, I don't know what D is. Inform the sponsor that float. Okay, so that really doesn't mean anything. You can throw that one out. Remember, there's always a distractor in every question, so that one's gone. Now, ask for additional funds to ensure the work is done on time. I would say that's not your first option, right? So, I mean, DS, that's called crashing the project. but that's not really your best option here. What about the difference between Bravo and Charlie? Confirm resources are available to work overtime, or C Charlie, ensure the planned resources can perform the assigned work. Before we get to B about overtime and crashing the project, crashing means throwing more resources at it. It's a schedule compression technique. Before we talk about that, why don't we ensure the planned resources can perform the assigned work? That is the best thing. If not, we will have a contingency plan. So C is the answer. Ensure the planned resources can perform the assigned work. The project manager, that we as a project manager with the team, must ensure the resources are available as planned. In case any problems arise, we have a contingency plan. So it's not like, well, let's just hope they do it. No. Then we can get into the crashing. We can get into other aspects of managing the project. But for now, let's make sure work gets done right on time and that the people, capital, equipment, technology is available for us. Okay? Now, number 2, the project team is concerned about risk events that might impact the project to build a new electrical plant. One newly identified risk was access to regulatory officials. So a risk is being able to talk to the regulatory officials and give us feedback. The team has taken the appropriate steps to account for this risk, but it's far from unresolved. So you see, we're being told good information, but then we know that the issue has not been resolved. In which of the following documents will the project team find the details of all identified risks and their characteristics that affect the schedule model? All right, so now we're moving away from the scenario and we're being told specifically, hey, do you know the document that the project team can use to find the details of the identified risks and those characteristics? What is a characteristic of risk? Is it internal? Is it external? Is it related to government? Is it complex? Is it one that you need to solve quantitatively versus qualitatively? Those are details, characteristics, and how they affect the schedule model. Okay? Is it A, the risk register, B, the risk management plan, C, the risk identification tool, and D, the work breakdown structure? All right, so first we've got to get rid of the distractor. Guess what that is? Any ideas? The answer is C, the risk identification tool. There is nothing in the PMBOK that describes a risk identification tool. That is not the answer. See, Charlie's gone. Now, what about the work breakdown structure? Really, the WBS is an essential tool, but it's not a document. I mean, it's something that we can use, sure, to work with risk management, but it's not a document. It is a process. Work breakdown structure is a process by which we decompose the project, right? So Charlie Delta are gone. Now you know you have the risk register and the risk management plan. Well, this question is asking you about a document, not a plan. So Bravo is gone. You see how the little tricks in the wording can help you? So all you did was eliminate this, and then really it's a definition question as well. The risk register has the details associated with the risk, with the identified risk, and so it has like a risk owner. It has the characteristics of the risk and so on. And so it's a very important document, and by backtracking to it, you got it right. The risk register provides the details of all identified risks and their characteristics that affect the schedule model. Now, you could have gotten it by just knowing the definition, but really the best way to get this kind of answer is by backtracking to it. Not that the way you would do it for this one specifically, but when you're taking the exam, there are going to be questions where you don't necessarily know the answer, but if you backtrack to them, just like I did here, man, you're going to have a pretty good result on the exam. Okay? All right, so if you do have questions or anything that I can help you with, make sure you reach out to me. I'm here to help. There's a lot of stuff that I can help you with, or that my organization can provide information. The main thing is to go through and do as many of these questions as possible. Share the information with others. brainstorm these examples and ask me any questions, shoot me an email or whatever, show up to one of these sessions and when they're live, and we can talk about any questions that or comments that you have. All right. Don't forget to set your exam date. I can promise you, you're not going to take the exam unless you set the date. Okay, that's a proven fact. So make sure you've done that. Okay. All right. I'll see you at the next session. Just stay tuned because we'll send you some information. Goodbye for now.